Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday Talks. Look, today people might drop in. It is an open conversation, so make sure that if you are dropping in, you send me a message, say hi real quick. We could bring you on camera or whatever. Today we're talking about toxic positivity. Okay, so what is that really? What is toxic positivity? See, you hear all the time how we need to be in this positive attitude and keep this going, and you can go and you can do it, and all these things, and you should be feeling that. There is not anything further from the truth. Okay, so it's a really challenge, though, right? It's a big challenge because, especially the more modalities you get, the more of a challenge it is to when you are feeling down and to kind of move out of it because you think, oh, I should get this and I got this and I have this and I have that and I have this. Okay. So I gotta tell you a little story about something that happened to me and how toxic positivity really did cause me a lot more pain. So I've already been studying for a while. I've done some stuff. I've been working through some modalities, including landmark, including I was already, I think, through my Jedi stuff, my first part of my Jedi stuff. When this happened, I was working with a financial services company and I was pretty okay. But I made a couple mistakes. The first one was I left my job too early, my day job. So, and we're going to talk about that. I think that's going to be up. It might be one of the questions I ask next week when I talk to Lawrence Oliver, the third. They're coming on next week, so make sure you're here. It's going to be friggin' amazing. We're going to actually have a guest for this Tuesday talk and talk about being nomadic and talk about what it's really like being out there on the road. Right? So, one of the things that happened in that time is that I just got some really um, a lot really happened. And my brother was about a year past and really started to. If you have a loved one pass, especially if someone that is super close to you, right? It's not something that just goes away, and sometimes you're fine, sometimes everything's okay, and then you hit something, and then it's like, oh, and it takes the wind out of you. And I was in this space. My mom was in the hospital. I was taking care of her. This is during the years that I was taking care of my mother. Um, I did that for about 5 years until we got her well enough to live on her own again. Um, and my brother, and then, I wasn't making a ton of money with the financial services. I wasn't doing as well as I would like to be. Um, and so that was a strain. And then finally, my dog died. And I just lost it, guys. I had a nervous breakdown. What happened? And I hope no one ever has to go through anything like what I went through because it was absolutely horrible. It was really one of those things that I don't know how I got through at the end of the day. So during this, I had these amazing people around me, and I really did have great people around me that were well meaning. And what they kept saying was, just snap out of it, basically. Hey, come back to work. Hey, come to this, come to that. And getting out of the circumstances a lot of times will help, right? But what the problem was is that work was part of that problem. So they were asking me to go into something that was already a stressor, right? And what I found was that sometimes, like there was a few times that I actually woke up on the ground with coffee all over me, or I was rocking uncontrollably, or trying not to go out and unbury my dog a week later, thinking that I buried him alive. He died in my lap. Um, And I don't talk about that part about very often, right? I don't like to talk about that because in part of me, I'm a guy, and part of me goes, "Well, you shouldn't feel that way. You're a guy. You shouldn't be all that upset." Get off. See, the thing is that when you're getting karmically kicked in the face over and over and over again, or it feels like you are, you're not just going to walk it off. You're not going to think yourself to better. And that's where toxic positivity really does come in place. Right? Not once did anyone say, "Hey, you should go see a therapist." Maybe you need to go see a doctor about that, Jeff. And it's not because they were bad people. And I don't want to make it sound like they're bad people because they really were trying to be as supportive as they possibly could. But at the end, they didn't have the tools either. So what ended up happening is I started going back into my modalities. Believe it or not, part of it was me. I really did go back in my modalities, and I'm like, what is really going to move the needle here? How can I start to live? Because I'm not going to die, so I might as well fucking live, right? So the first thing I did is I started my journaling process and got really serious about my journaling process. And if you guys don't know, you can pick up my journal on Amazon, my awesome plan. And basically, what it goes through is it's 3, 2, 1, awesome. So in the beginning of your day, you're going to journal twice. At the beginning of the day, you're trying to ramp yourself up, right? Because at that point, I had to ramp myself up. There wasn't just getting up and being okay. I had to really work hard to make anything move. So three things that you, three things that inspire you, two things that you are working on, one possibility you're creating for the day. So possibility is a way of being, right? It's a possibility. It's just sometimes it was just a possibility to getting through the day. And sometimes that's where it starts. I also use this app called Youper, Youper, and they've changed a lot since I used it. And some of the things that they did was really cool, and some of the things they did was me a little bit more challenging. But it made me track where I was, and I did that because of one of these great, amazing coaches that I worked with, Holly, um, who was worked on a more not toxic positivity level, right? And so she said, "This is one of the best things I ever did for myself." And she said, "Hey, go and download this." I still use it to this day. Right. And it just tells you, "Hey, how are you feeling today?" Back in the beginning, it really was just, "How are you feeling today?" And then what you would put a couple sentences about why you might feel like that. Right. And the dogs all want to get out in on this too. You know, they're always here. So the next thing was, you had to go through and really look at the evening part, right? So the first part is getting yourself amped up, and the last part was what one thing that I accomplished today. See, because you have to start rewarding your stuff for the little things. And sometimes it might be I just did some freaking laundry. I didn't find myself on the floor today. Right? And two things I learned, because see, you're always learning something. And sometimes you learn things like, hey, and I this is me in that moment, in that space. I, looking back, I'm like, wow, I can't imagine even feeling like that anymore. Right. But two things you learn, and then three things you're grateful for, because you can find three things. And the goal is to try to find three different things every day. But sometimes you have to work at it. I get it. And so I kept doing it. And then there was mind free. So mind free is just a free rate. and you'd write whatever it is, set a timer and write whatever it is that's in your head. And that was really helpful because I started seeing once you get that out of your head, you can start actually seeing what's really there. And some of that you wouldn't even say to your best friend. Some of that you wouldn't tell your worst enemy, but you're saying it about you. So I started doing that. That was one of the first things. And I started seeing the change. I started seeing my things move. I started seeing everything kind of get together, right? And then it was moving my body. So you have to get into your body sometimes. When you're in your head, the fastest way out of your head is into your body. What are you feeling right now? So try it. What are you feeling right now? What are you tasting right now? I just had dinner. I can actually taste the pork chops. Uh, what do you smell? This room kind of smells like lavenderish. How do you feel? There for you. What does your body do you have any tension? Can you breathe into some space? Here I learned a couple things that actually really help also. Right, and one of them is this meditation, and it kind of goes from right here. So as we go through, you might want to. I invite you to close your eyes, just kind of breathe. I want you to roll. I want you to imagine that you're in a movie theater. You can actually see this movie play, and as you look, you realize it's this area in your life that isn't so great. Run it through. Might be a conversation you had that didn't go the way you wanted. Be a fight. Might be something horrific. Might be an accident you had. But I want you to see it as if you are not there. You are looking at this because you are not that moment. You're the observer of that moment. Next, I want you to kind of look, and I want you to rewind it all the way to the beginning, and I want you to change it to black and white. And I want you to change the sound effects and dialogue. It's something you would see in a black and white movie. Maybe it's a different car horn. Maybe it's a different accent. They used that transatlantic accent back in the 40s. What would it sound like if you had Fred and Wilma having that conversation? Fred and Wilma Flintstone. I want you to rewind that again, and I want you to go in and I want you to play that again. But this time, I want you to play with the colors. What if you had in this bright, bright, sunny, sun flooded light? I want you to rewind that again. Now I want you to play with the speed. What if it was fast forwarded? Remember when the old VCRs where you could fast forward, play it at like 5 times the speed? Maybe it's in slow mo. Wow. What does that look like? One of the great things about life is that we get to narrate our stories. To rewrite them any way we want. And as you start playing with that, and this may not by any means take out some of the pain of there, right? But it should start loosening that up. And you can play with this for hours in different ways and different looks. It's a rom-com. It's a horror movie. Is it a slasher? Tweet, 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 tweet. The characters from Law and Order were there. Dun, dun. It looked like if all of it was solved within a 30-minute span. I want to give you one more way, really start healing that instead of being positive, right? And because see, what it does is that takes it and it loosens the grip of the emotion around it. When you can play it in different ways, in different frames, in different things, you can actually start to detach the emotion from that situation. And the more you can detach the emotion from that situation and just get yourself to neutral, the more you can actually heal. You can accept it. You can integrate it. It just happened. Just like that movie you watched, it just happened. There's nothing bad. There's nothing wrong. See, we play this game of black and white a lot, right? Wrong and right. There, everything has an inverse, and you wouldn't be able to tell anything without its inverse. You wouldn't know light without dark. But we label things good or bad, right? And there's experiences I don't want. Trust me, I used to stand out in a bus stop in the wintertime going to work. It took me almost an hour and a half to get to work. It was freezing cold, and I'm in Michigan. So it cold. People were nasty. No one's happy. I did it. There's things you can do. The last thing is a guide to neutral, right? So if you have actually looked at the Live Your True Awesome Life Now guide, it gives you an exercise to actually guide to neutral, right? Because at neutral, you can control it. At neutral, when it no longer has this like, oh my God, I'm hurt, I'm painful. This when you can take the pain and the emotion out, again, you're healing that. You can realize it's not you, and you can move past it. And it's not going to mean that it doesn't always hurt. I can still tell you that once in a while my brother comes up and I get really sad, or my puppy when I think about him with the other dogs I have now, right? I realize I'm only about a mile away from where he's buried at the moment. And I think, oh, I should go and visit his grave, but it's someone else's house now, and it's probably not a good idea. But things that, you can actually do. And one of those is look at these statements. Okay. And each one of these, I'm going to give you some statements, and some of them are going to apply, and some of them aren't. Okay. And you can grab this in the group, the Freedom Entrepreneurs United community. You can grab this guide, it's there in the file section. And we also email it to you when you join the group. So you probably have this somewhere. And the first one is that I can fully accept my current state. The acceptance is the first step, right? It's the first step. Right? Ask a 12-stepper. They're going to tell you, you got to accept it. Doesn't make you bad or wrong. No matter what happened, it's not bad or wrong. It just did. Actually, that's the second statement. Nothing is wrong here. Maybe you could just take that out. Nothing is wrong here. This happened, that happened. There's actually this really great exercise called 2 circles, and I am not close enough to the whiteboard. I can do a whiteboard on here, I think. Look at something. I can do a whiteboard. You're not seeing the whiteboard though. Show up with me. So this is the story you have. Everything has 2 different pieces. One is the story that you have, and the other one is what actually happened. I don't think this is showing up. That stinks. So when you can actually start seeing what really happened, right? Instead of the story you made about it, you can start realizing that there's nothing wrong. So what happened was my brother had passed away. I wasn't making a lot of money. My mother was in the hospital. My dog died. What I made up about that was that I was a horrible human being, that the universe was out to get me. I didn't deserve happiness. Like many more. So nothing wrong here, right? It's really taken me years to comprehend this. And I remember really when it first happened, John said, take on the idea that nothing is wrong here. And I'm like, I get a whole list of things that weren't wrong here. At that time, my relationship wasn't going well. Everything was crazy, right? But nothing's wrong here. This just is. There's things that you can do to move past this. Okay. The next one is there's something the present state is better than. Okay. So what is it that so in the present state that I'm in, right? I'm staying with my friend Gabby. My RV should be done any moment now. Right. And on September 14th, it went into my fifth wheel went into some water. If you guys don't know that story, it was really crazy. I was flooded up to my couch level, and I had to spend the night in there. So I'm in a really dry place now. I'm here with one of my best friends. I get to see my family. I got to see my family yesterday. I have friends in a community around me, right? So this is better than being broken down in Florida. So the next one is all of your problems are brilliant and elegant solutions. So being here at Gabby's is a really elegant solution because it gives me a place to live, number one. Um, I'm not paying a lot of money to be here, which is really great. So I get to save a little bit of money. I'm in a house with running water. I don't have to think about that. Yay! I don't have to think about the black tank. Yay! You ever dealt with a black tank? You know what I'm talking about. I totally get it. My internet is good, so I don't have to think about internet. I don't have to worry that she's going to turn off my internet for no reason. So where I have shame, I'm actually grateful. So I am ashamed sometimes that I'm still not in my RV. I'm grateful things are moving. I find hope. I also find hopelessness. So hope is such a tricky thing because you really do. Hope isn't necessarily bad, but the problem with hope is that hope without action is just hopeless. It's a dream. So you really have to move that. Where am I actually feeling hopeless? And I felt that multiple times throughout this time with my RV. Right? I can surrender 100% to what is. Woo! I've had to work on that. There are days that this is not easy. There are days where not being in my home, not traveling as I planned, all of that has happened. And, I'm not perfect either. I have to go through this. This is what is. There's nothing wrong here. By surrendering the pain and the anger and the frustration from that, just accepting this is what is. Now what? Now where am I going from here? I can actually take a stand and a breath and be in my body enough to move on to the next thing. And sometimes when you do that, this is just what is, the next action comes to you. So these are a couple things that come up a lot too, especially in relationships. There's nothing I can do to belong more or less. So a lot of times with this online game that we're playing, that comes up. Communities do you belong to? And there's nothing I can do to belong more or less. Either I belong or I don't. In some of these communities, if you get frustrated with this at everyone thing, right, leave that community. Because if you're not, we have gotten to this point where we are absolutely in way too many communities. I think you should only be in 5 to 10 tops. 10. And when you can actually be a human in those communities and actually be in those communities, a community member, it changes things. So there's a couple things that I say when I'm feeling like I don't belong. Is there a sign saying this is for someone that excludes me? Right? So girls' locker room, employees only, fire alarm. I don't know. Has someone asked me to leave? Right. So I have a really good story about this. I went to the Unleash You event and they had a dance party one night and I was just not feeling it. I went in there and I was feeling all out of sorts and like I didn't belong there and all kinds of not okay. Right. And I was there for about 15 minutes. I ended up leaving because my anxiety got to the better of me. The issue with that is that I could have spent really great quality time with people that are on the same path that I am in a fun, relaxed, and controlled way. But I didn't because I started feeling uncomfortable. I belonged there. I was I was just as qualified as anyone else in that room, be in that room. Nothing I can do to be to be loved more or less. You are not loved for what you do. You are loved for who you are. And the more that we can see that who we are is what unites us, the world gets beautiful. You have nothing to prove. You're perfect, full, and complete just as you are. And you don't need someone else to validate you. We're going to be talking about that a lot more as I go through some of the things we're going through with this next conversation stuff we're going to be talking about. But right now, it's better than where I want to be. So right now, you have choice and action. Where you want to be is a dream. If you're not there, then it's a wish, it's a hope, it's a prayer. It's an imaginary thing in the future. I had to really work on this winter. Really work on this winter. I was supposed to be in Arizona. I was in Tennessee. Not where I wanted to be at all. Right? I was one of the really big goals of me not being in the RV and not being in Michigan is that I didn't want to deal with snow. And it actually snowed in that area 5 times as much as it normally does. Not big snows. It's still Tennessee, but it still snowed. Okay. I barely need a jacket. But I had choice right there. And I wasn't in Arizona. I was in Tennessee. And the more I was in Tennessee, the better things were. On New Year's Day, I actually walked the dogs in his short sleeves outside because it was absolutely gorgeous. Like 68 degrees on New Year's. It was lovely. Can you see how that going through those statements and really looking at how that situation is, all those things, fits in those boxes? And it might not fit in every box. I get it, right? Because all the situations are different. I've given you a couple different examples in those boxes. You start getting to the neutral place. And in the neutral space, when it stops hurting and it stops being painful, that's the space that starts to heal that. That's the piece that you can start saying, okay, so how can I look back at this differently? How can I be more positive around this? How can I bring that positivity back in my life? But it's not until you're neutral. Well, folks, I really do hope this helps. I am always here for you. Always, always, always. Check out the True Awesome Life or check out trueawesomelife.com. You can pick up the guide there that we were just talking about. And I will see you next week. Again, we're going to have a guest next week, so I'm really excited. Uh, and as always, reach out. You're loved.